I remember at the funeral when you spoke and you told your father's story. I mean, I don't often cry, but man, I was in tears because I'd known Pap my whole life at a distance. I mean, he'd occasionally come visit, but we all knew here was a guy who had wasted a lot of years and hurt a lot of people.
Bottom line is, in my family, it's a series of divorces. It's a series of womanizing and or vice versa. And it's a lot of drinking. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of addiction back there.
When Pap, your own dad, we called him Pap, he had a serious spat with alcohol. It wasn't just a spat; it was a lifelong battle. Right. Truth be told, with addiction in general. And how did that, Dad, do you think affected you? And I'm not going to put words in your mouth because I think I know where you might go with some of this. But his distance and his not being apart, what did that do in you, and where did it drive you?
I think that sort of depends on each person's personality. I was, as a young boy, able to experience love from the Father. I was able to go hunting with him. Pap, Charlie,
your own dad.
Charlie, my dad, able to get on his shoulders and, walk through the woods. And as a little guy, it just came to a point, maybe when I was about 11 years old, I began to notice destructive behaviors, anger that was beyond normal anger, just behaviors that weren't normal. And it was confusing. And so the way he treated my mother was not as good as it should have been. So I honestly, in my case, I was looking for that coach or that mentor or that somebody to help show me some boundaries, show me the way. Because, you get 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, you begin to experiment with things and you're going into puberty and, you can make mistakes even at that young age.
Right.
And then my dad took a job on the road and that was sort of, that was the worst thing that could have happened.
When you were what, 13?
I think I was about 12, about sixth grade. The other thing is we moved to a new town. It wasn't far away, but for a little kid, 30 miles on the other side of the river's a long way away. And, it was intimidating. It was scary. I didn't know anyone. So, there was some loss of confidence. And I just didn't have a man in my life at that point as a go-to. About the time that I made a decision to follow Christ, about the time my dad hit the road and his problem began to spin out of control, of all things, my dad sat me down on the couch one day and said, son, you need to know. Now, I'm about 12 years old. All this is about that time frame. In this new little town, Grammy and Gramps won't be living together anymore. That probably for me was the arrow to the heart, the pain of that loss. I didn't know what to do with that.
That was the firmest foundation you had, right?
That was the solid rock. That took me completely by surprise.
As a father, the Bible talks about, I think it's the Lord will visit the iniquities of the father onto the son and second and third, maybe the fourth generation. And I don't think God's saying, I don't read it this way, that he's saying that the son and the grandson are definitely going to struggle with this because I'm purposing that they will. I think it's just the general, hey, this is the way the world works. If you have these things inside of you, whether it's alcoholism, which I've at times battled it, you've at times battled it. If it's lust, which I've definitely had my struggles there, I know you have as well. There's an effect, I think, that happens. So I guess the question I'm asking is, with your knowledge of where, and I'm not trying to beat up on Charlie. I'm not trying to beat up on him. But with his life, how do you know how that probably affected you in terms of alcohol, lust, different things that we know that he battled?
I believe when you've come from that kind of environment, I don't think God puts a curse on people, But I think there's some generational stuff there that we have to deal with in patterns that we've grown up or we've seen. And even though I didn't even drink when you guys were coming up, I mean, I didn't till many years later, began to have a few beers or whatever. But I think I still had the tendencies of a performance-based alcoholic style of a father in some ways. We do these things and we do it right. David with the sling and the stone, we kill the giant. That's kind of the way I went with performance-based living. It took me a long time to understand that and to get through it. My brother, and I don't think Barry, he's 5.5 years younger, I don't think he would mind me mentioning his name. He went a totally different route with the pain of his childhood. Now remember, when I'm 12 years old, he's 6.5. So he didn't really have those bonds with Gramps, with my dad. But he just sort of shut down. He just became the guy that didn't feel anything. So people do different things with their pain.
Yeah.
But the bottom line to this whole thing is, for me, there is no greater position or calling than being a husband and father. None. Those things, when you look back, when you're about to turn 60 years old, that's what you evaluate.
Hey, everybody. So thank you for watching to this point in the video. And it's difficult when there's an entire hour of footage and you're trying to pull things to tell a cohesive, coherent story. But everybody can tell probably that my father's childhood was difficult, very difficult. And there's a beautiful redemption story there that I didn't get to tell in that short 5 to 6 minute clip. But I want you to watch on Father's Day when we post the full video. And also, this was talking about the effects of a father's failures. Well, my dad's father's failures had, a great effect on my dad, and it caused him to be extremely results driven and needing affirmation from the eyes of the world at certain points in his life. And that definitely trickled over to me. Whereas his son, I became extremely performance driven. And to a degree, I think that's okay. But it became an idol in my life, in my dad's life. And that's backwards. It's not what it should have been. And it took a long time for me to get past that way of thinking. Even though I think performance is still a good thing, it's not the only thing, and it's not the greatest thing. And matter of fact, the coolest part for me is learning to not care so much about my performance. It kind of took the pressure off. And I think if you read any mental game sort of books about sports or performance, it's only when you begin to care not so much about the result and you enjoy the process that you actually perform better. And I think that's also true of being a father. When you don't care so much about your son's results or keeping the schedule all the time for business, you can just kind of relax and enjoy your life. So anyway, please check back in on Father's Day for the full hour-long video with my dad. Thanks.